Welcome back to today's podcast episode. And today I have with me Myron on the show, where we're going to be talking about many things: performance improvements, high performance, goal visionary, and much, much more, I'm sure. So, a quick introduction to Myron, and then we'll dive in. So, Myron is a high performance coach, a mentor and goal visionary, a conference and keynote speaker, a performance improvement, and streaming businesses for optimization as well. So, Myron, glad to have you on today and
Glad,
make this
glad to be
conversation.
here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, really interesting to hear a little bit about what got you into, I mean, there's many things there, but what got you into like performance improvement? Was it just something over the years through your like careers? Has it always been like a fascination for you?
Well, I'm just wired that I always try to find the fastest, most efficient way to do everything that I'm doing.
Mm,
And I've I've been an entrepreneur for over 30 years and had multiple businesses, and it's one of the things that I was always kind of excelled at was, planning out, finding the quickest path to complete a project and getting it done on time. And I started out in the architectural field, then went into construction and project management and different things like that. And I ended up doing a lot of that for my clients anyway. I would have different clients where they were manufacturers or whatever, and I always ended up helping them streamline and kind of getting the best performance out of things. And decided to just kind of 3 years ago shift careers and get more into the coaching and consulting side of things and out of the development and real estate and all of that side of things. And that's where I kind of got my focus onto this. And really this the self-improvement side of helping individuals do that, not only just companies, to find out who what their true identity is, who they really are, who they really want to be, and then finding that peak performance for the individual versus a company or a project or anything like that. And so that's where the shift came in, and how I've shifted into doing that as well. And then working on with the Neuron Coding Institute and neuron coding and all of that to be able to use NLP to increase the efficiency and the speed that you can get there now is where I am with that.
mm. Super interesting, yeah, journey. Obviously, 30 years as an entrepreneur, working in various different ways, and then try to find the fastest way possible. And now it's brought you to obviously the institute that we're part of, where use tools like NLP on people, and coaching them through that as well. For you, like you mentioned about like identity for people, do you find that something people you're working with struggle with, or is it just yeah?
Yeah, it's a lot of people struggle with, and it's the age old question we're asking when we're little is like, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Hmm.
But how many of us actually are that person now? How many of us are actually doing a job that we enjoy doing, but we're not, and not just doing a job for a paycheck, you know? And a lot of people that I talk to, their frustration all comes back to kind of a core of, what do you want? Are you happy with what you're doing? Is this what you really want to be doing? Is this really what you should be doing? And what your talents and your gifts that you have that you're given, are you really able to utilize those? Because if you're not, are you really happy with what you're doing?
Mm.
And are you really satisfied with, do do you really want to go through life working 40, 50, 60 hours a week for something that at the end of it, all you get's a paycheck,
Mm.
or do you want to be able to actually do something that the paycheck is a bonus at the end, but really what you're getting is the satisfaction and the kind of completion of, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm really making a difference, whether it's helping people or creating things or whatever that
Mm.
is, being able to kind of fulfill your true identity of who you are and what you want to be doing versus just doing a job to get a paycheck to meet and ends. There's a big difference between those two. And
Mm,
working with people to help them define what that is a big part of what I do.
mm. The what do we want question, the the golden one. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Um,
ultimate, what do you want? And this very well, but most people you ask what they want, they can give you a long list of everything they don't want.
mm,
But to actually be able to define what you want, whether it's out of a job, out of a relationship, or just out of life or for yourself, that's a deep enough question that really people really have to sit there and think about it to figure out what they want.
mm, mm. Yeah, I've certainly felt that, and now and then I have to catch myself in that kind of, well, I don't really want to be doing this. It's like, or don't really want to be in that situation or with that person or whatever. It's kind of, it can go down that route certainly. But yeah,
Yeah.
asking it to go down the other way and getting them very clear. So I guess it's kind of is it like part of what you do is getting them very clear on that, and then it's like identifying and planning the steps for them to get there using some of your other skills.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was just having a discussion with my wife earlier. It's like, anytime we're going to go anywhere on a trip, whether it's a 10-minute trip or a 2-day trip, you pull out your phone, you turn on the GPS. Well, there's two things that GPS needs to know before it can even give you a route to get to where you're going. Is
Mm,
one, where are you now? And two, where's your
mm,
destination? If you don't have those 2 points, how are you going to know how to get there? And how do you know when you arrive or how long it's going to take to get there?
mm,
You've got to have a start and an end, or at least a midpoint to know okay, so maybe you don't know where your final destination is going to be, but where do we want to go next?
mm,
So you at least can chart a path on which direction is to go. Otherwise, you're just kind of wandering aimlessly around trying to, you don't know where you're going. I mean, we do it every day with our phones and the GPSs, whether it's I mean, my daughters, they're going across town and they'll put it in the GPS to see what the traffic's like between here and there. So why don't we have an internal GPS on our lives as far as what we want to do, to where we can chart a course. That way we can see, is there traffic along the way to plan for it, those kind of things. We do it all the time when we drive. We very rarely do it when we're trying to plan out our goals, whether it's, a goals for the next week or the goal for the next year. Do you
mm,
actually sit down and chart a course for that? Or you just, January 1st rolls around and you go, this is what I'm going to do this year. And you make a nice little list, and then you stick it on, and 2 weeks later, the list, you don't even know where it's at.
mm,
You know, it's really defining where you are, where you want to go, and then why you want to go there.
mm,
And then once you have those three things, the course kind of charts itself
mm.
from that point.
Yeah, three questions. You just touched on the why you want to go there as well. Why
Yeah.
do you think that's why do you think that's important, knowing the why?
Tony Robbins always says is, if you know the why, the how doesn't matter.
Mm,
Because if your why is big enough, you'll figure out the how. So if you set a goal of, let's say you say a goal of, I want to lose weight this year.
mm,
Okay. Well, that's a very open-ended goal,
mm,
you know, or if you set a goal of, I want to make more money this year. Well, okay, that's a very broad goal. Make more money than what? Okay, so you want to make what, $1 more than you made last year? Because then you succeeded your
mm,
goal, you made more money, but how much more? It's being very specific in what you want. And then once you know what you want, asking yourself the question of, why do you want it?
mm,
What is the reason you want this goal? I mean, it doesn't matter what the reason is, but know what it is.
mm,
Why do you want it? I mean, the best analogy is if you need $5,000 to buy something that you just want, right? You might get the $5,000. It might take you 6 months to get it, whatever. But if you need $5,000 for your child to have a surgery,
mm,
that's life threatening, you'll get that $5,000
Yeah.
really quick. Your why was big enough,
Mm,
you know. So the why really matters on what you want to do and why you're wanting to set your goals,
mm,
and nobody ever really sits down and thinks those things out, you know, and figure out why do you want these things, and then being specific on what it is that you do want.
mm,
And that, as far as, setting goals, those are two very key components to being able to set a goal that you're actually going to achieve.
mm. I like your example there of $5,000. I might want to buy something, and then it's like, well, actually, it's your child's life. That's it's a very hard. That's gonna. My hallucination with that probably get most people very strongly in their heart and very quick into action, right?
Right.
On that one, like, I don't know about you, Myron, just like about experience, but I've had to get very honest with my whys as well. Like sometimes it's like I try and say something that sounds good or kind of like impressive, like, oh, I want to, help that charity or something like that. But then like I've uncovered it, and I do give to charity a lot as well. But it's when I've uncovered my like true reason, that's got me a lot more driven into something. I don't know if that's the experience you might have had with coaching clients.
Absolutely. I mean, and a lot of times people will say, well, I want to do, they'll give you a specific goal, and then you ask them why. And a lot of times when you start digging into why, they realize they don't even really want that. It just
Mm,
sounded like something cool to do or something fun or because other people were doing it.
mm,
But when you really start to dig into the why you want to do it, is it worth the effort to spend
mm,
your time and effort and money on something that you really don't even want?
mm,
It was just a goal that you thought sounded good when you were writing down some goals to do. And I mean, and that's where the peak performance part comes in, is being able to identify those goals and the whys behind them to efficiently use your time, your resources, and everything else to obtain them, versus having 10 different goals that you're going after. And there's one of that 10, there's one that you really want and has a good why, but you've got nine other ones that are draining your resources
mm,
when you really don't need to be doing them,
mm,
and just focusing all your time and resources on that one goal that really has a why, that really connects with you on why you want to do it.
mm,
And once I always call it the noise. Is like once you get rid of all the noise, you'd be surprised how fast and how easy you can accomplish a goal when you know why you're doing it. You know what the goal is, and you're very specific on it. You can accomplish some stuff really quickly when you're that hyper focused on it,
mm.
and get rid of the noise around it.
So there's another part to sort of like removing some space as well. Well, making the space by removing some stuff that's not
Right.
relevant in your life as well.
Yeah. I mean, we all have a limited amount of resources, where it's money, whether
Sure.
it's time, whether it's brain capacity, even, we have a limited amount of resources.
Mm,
And why not focus those resources that you have on exactly what you want and exactly why you want it, versus scattering them out over 10 different things that half of them you don't even know why you're doing them.
mm, like that. Yeah, cutting out some of the noise. I know in also just kind of switching a little bit onto your like sort of entrepreneur experience, but also very relevant for planning people's goals out and moving forward. And I know it's one of our 10 toxins that Joseph talks about, the fear of failure, because that can put a lot of people off. You mentioned in your notes to me that you don't see fear or failure as the end, but sometimes the beginning of success. Just be
Right.
really interesting to hear a little bit about that from what you've experienced.
I guess my first question is what is failure?
Mm,
What is the definition of failure?
mm,
What is it? Is it because you hit a road bump along the way and it didn't go exactly the way you wanted it to go? Is it a project you started and then the project fell apart and you weren't able to complete it? But even if you didn't complete that project, what did you learn in that process of doing it?
Mm.
If nothing else, you learned how not to do something.
Mm.
One of the things I like to say, they always say that your first $1 million is the hardest $1 million to make, right? Well, the one thing I learned about my first $1 million was how to lose it, you know, how to lose $1 million. Well, at first you've got to make it, and then you fail and you lose it. But what I learned in that process has been more valuable to me than any college course, any degree, or anything else you could have. Because the one thing that I learned from that failure is that it's okay to fail. And failure is not the end if you keep going.
Mm.
The first time I failed, it was 2008. I was a contractor and had multiple real estate projects going. And, I was on the bandwagon with everybody else. Money was cheap. Everybody was loaning. Anybody could borrow money in 2007, 2008. And, I had several projects, they were leveraged, and then the bank started closing. And I fought that and fought that and fought that. You've heard the saying, beat a dead horse. I beat that horse so bad that there was nothing left of it,
Mm.
but I did it because I was raised that, nobody ever talked about failure. Nobody talked about we all fail. I mean, any millionaire, billionaire you've talked to, they'll tell you that, they failed multiple times. You know, they didn't go out the first time and be successful. There was multiple things that they've tried that they failed at.
Mm.
But you don't really hear about that. People don't talk about the failures. All you hear about is the success stories, you know. But failure is your first step to success. Because once you get past that failure, you learn lessons from that. You learn things of how to do things, how not to do things, and what directions to go. And then once you've failed the first time and realize it's not the end, you actually gain a lot of power from that, because then you're not scared to fail as bad as you were before. And you know that if it does fail, if it does fall apart, you just pick up the pieces and go again. And you keep going and you keep going and you keep going until what is actually the end of it. I saw a meme the other day and it said the early bird gets the worm, but the second mouse gets the cheese.
Mm. Not seen that or heard that before.
Yeah. So, what is success? What is failure? The early bird gets the worm, but slow and steady wins the race. So which one is it? Get there early and be there fast, or do you go slow and steady? Which one's right? It all comes down to what you define failure is and what you define success is. You know, I look at it this way. Success is the fact that you tried something, it didn't work, but it didn't stop you. You kept going and tried again. That's success. The fact that you failed, you learned something from it, you picked yourself back up, you put the pieces together, and you win again.
Mm.
I mean, that in itself is the, picking yourself up after failure is a lot more empowering than not starting at all because you might fail.
Mm.
You know, so it all comes back to the definition of what is failure.
Mm.
You
What is
know,
failure for you? And
right?
yeah, thank you for sharing your inspiration and how you learned from getting up to the $1 million and then losing it, and that was a very valuable lesson, more than any college book I think you said could teach you
Oh,
at the
absolutely.
time, yeah, or any course. No, it's powerful because I know a lot of us out there, including I've been caught out on this a lot in the past of like again, it comes back to our own definitions. I feel like from what you're saying on what is failure, but certainly being like, oh, I don't want to fail. I'm not going to try that. I'm not going to try that. But yeah, these
You know,
millionaires and billionaires do obviously fail multiple times, but
yeah.
the open
I, I,
ones, yeah.
I mean, I guess my favorite one to bring up is, you've heard of WD-40, the lubricant spray, right?
Mm.
I don't know if you guys have it there. It's here in the U.S., but it's WD-40. Well, the reason it got its name is so the WD stands for water displacement. The 40, that's the 40th formula that he used. There was 39 ones before that that didn't work,
Oh wow.
but WD-40 worked, so that's what he called it. It was WD-40.
Ah, WD-40. Good example. Yeah, just kept going
Yeah.
through them all.
Yeah. So
Uh,
he failed 39 times. Well, what happened if the guy that invented and I need to look up and see who that it was, but what if the guy that
mm,
invented WD-40 stopped after 39?
mm. Yeah, it wouldn't exist.
It wouldn't exist.
No.
So where is failure the end? Where do you stop? And if you stop after you fail, how close were you to actually succeeding? You
Mm,
know, one of Tony Robbins' things that he always says is very famous is the difference between good and excellent is just that extra little part that you put in.
mm. And then there's the outstanding right at the top. That one.
Right.
Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
that tiny little bit at the top. I
That
remember that.
last little part, just pushing past that last failure till you get to the success one.
Yeah. And yeah, I always uses the like athlete example there. And it's like, well, he doesn't always use it, but I've heard him use the athlete example many times. It's like, you know, who's the one who's like truly recognized and then success? It's that one right at the top. They just like failed that little bit extra, or they've just done that little bit more and not stopped, as opposed to
Right.
excellent or good. Yeah. No. No, Myron, I appreciate everything you've shared with us. I know you offer a lot of resources. You're doing a lot of work. You know, you're speaking, you're coaching people, um, and yeah, you're already helping people like move forward, get clarity on what they want. We've talked about today, and then actually planning to get there, and yeah, helping them define, I guess, what is failure and what is success for them as well on that journey. So yeah, where can the listener find you if they want to get in touch or find out a little bit more about your work?
Yeah. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn under Miller Minded.
Yeah.
You can find me there anywhere.
Oh,
And
awesome.
I guess one last thing I would like to say
Oh,
is
yeah, please.
the difference in failure and success is where you stop.
Mm,
And always looking to take that next step, then you're being successful every day. Because as long as you're taking a step forward, you're gaining ground every day.
mm. I think that's, and for me, just like what rang true there is just like, and that's any area in life, not just like business, but it
Oh,
could
it's
be,
not. Yeah,
it
it's
could be going
any
out
area
there
in your life.
finding, yeah, losing weight, or like maybe it's not working for you if you're trying to find the love of your life, or, trying to do many things. I guess that's what rings true for me there when you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, love that. Great, great thing to end on. So once again, a massive thank you, and we will include all your notes in the show notes below, your links to your social media. So once again, Myron, a big thank you for coming on today.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Appreciate having you.
I appreciate you. So that concludes our episode for today. And remember to lead with your heart and not with fear.